People will betray you, lie about you, and try to break you, but do not think for even a second that their actions go unnoticed by God. He sees the tears you shed in silence, the nights you stay awake replaying the pain, and the battles you fight that no one knows about. God is not blind, nor is He indifferent. He is the ultimate judge. When He deals with those who hurt you, it is never in the way the world expects. It is precise, divine, and often completely beyond human understanding. God does not need your revenge, and He does not require your bitterness. He only asks for your trust, because His justice is greater than anything you could orchestrate on your own. The first way God deals with those who hurt you is by exposing them. You may think they are getting away with it, but God is a God of truth. He allows deception to flourish only for a time before He pulls back the curtain. The person who lied about you, one day the truth will come to light. The one who schemed against you, their plans will collapse. It may not happen immediately, but when God moves, it is undeniable. He will not let the wicked remain in the shadows forever. Sometimes God removes people from your life not as punishment to them, but as protection for you. You may wonder why a certain relationship ended, why a friend turned into an enemy overnight, or why someone you trusted suddenly disappeared. It is not rejection, it is redirection. God is shielding you from people whose intentions do not align with His plan for your life, and when He does this, do not chase after them. Trust that His removal is always for your elevation. God's justice is not always about punishing your enemies, it is about healing you. You may think the only way to find peace is if they suffer the way they made you to suffer, but God is more concerned with making you whole than making them pay. He will close the wounds they left, restore the confidence they shattered, and bring blessings into your life that will make their betrayal irrelevant. When God deals with those who hurt you, He does so in a way that ensures you are not just avenged, but also uplifted. You may not see immediate consequences for those who did you wrong, and that is because God's timing is not yours. He is patient, giving them time to repent, to change, and to make things right. Sometimes He will allow them to prosper for a season, but it is not a reward, it is a test. They are given rope, but if they refuse to change, they will hang themselves with it. You do not need to wish for their downfall. God handles it in His perfect way. One of the hardest things to accept is that sometimes God shows mercy to those who hurt you. It may seem unfair, but that is who He is. He gives them chances just as He gave you chances when you made mistakes. But mercy does not mean a lack of justice. If they refuse to change, God will let them reap the consequences of their actions. He may not strike them down immediately, but He will let their own choices destroy them. You will see their actions turn against them without you lifting a finger. God deals with your enemies by making you untouchable. He does not always stop them from trying to harm you, but He ensures their efforts fail. They will plot, but their plans will backfire. They will speak against you, but their words will lose power. They will try to close doors for you, only for God to open greater ones. When you are covered by God, no attack can truly break you. Their hate cannot stop the blessings God has assigned to your name. Have you ever seen someone who wronged you end up needing you? That is another way God handles your enemies. He humbles them. He brings them to a point where they realize they cannot escape the consequences of their actions. They may have treated you like you were nothing, but one day they will realize you were a blessing they mishandled. When they come back, you will have the choice to show them the mercy that God showed you. God does not allow pain without purpose. If someone hurt you, it is not just about what they did. It is about what God is doing through it. He is building you. He is making you stronger, wiser, and more resilient. He is preparing you for something greater. You may not understand why certain things happen, but trust that God is using even the betrayals, the rejections, and the heartbreaks to shape you into the person you are meant to be. You might think your enemies are in control, but they are not. Even their attacks against you are under God's authority. He allowed Joseph's brothers to sell him into slavery, but only because it was part of a greater plan. He allowed Judas to betray Jesus, but only because it led to salvation. Your enemies are never in control. God is. What they meant for evil, God will turn for good. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking they can harm you and walk away without consequence. What they fail to realize is that they are not fighting against you, they are fighting against God. And no one wins against Him. He will defend you ways you never expected. He will make sure they feel the weight of their actions. You do not have to fight them. God will handle it. And when He does, it will be undeniable. Do not waste your energy seeking revenge. The people who hurt you are not beyond God's reach. Let Him deal with them. Let Him repay them in the way He sees fit. Trust that His justice always fires stronger and more complete than anything you can ever do on your own. When you release it to Him, you free yourself from the burden of bitterness and step into the blessings He has prepared for you. When God deals with your enemies, He does not just bring justice, He brings redemption. Sometimes He will take the very people who hurt you and transform them. He will show them the pain they caused, convict them, and change them. You may see them become different people. And if that happens, know that it is God's way of proving that no one is beyond His power. Even those who hurt you can become testimonies of His grace. You may wonder if you will ever see justice. The answer is yes, but in God's way, not yours. His justice is not always immediate, but it is always perfect. He will balance every wrong. He will restore what was taken. He will elevate you in front of those who tried to destroy you. And when He does, you will realize that trusting Him was the best decision you ever made. The best way to let God deal with those who hurt you is to keep your heart pure. Do not let their actions turn you into someone bitter and vengeful. Rise above, keep your faith, and let God handle them. He will do it in a way that leaves no doubt that He was always in control. Some of the most painful betrayals in life come from those you trusted the most, friends, family members, even those you love deeply. But remember this, God saw what they did. He knows the depth of your pain, and He will not let their actions go unanswered. When He deals with those who hurt you, He does so with perfect justice, not human justice, which is flawed and emotional, but divine justice that settles every score in the right way and at the right time. One way God handles those who hurt you is by removing His favor from their lives. They may seem to be thriving now, but there is no lasting success without God's hand. People can manipulate their way to the top, but without divine protection, they will fall. When someone mistreats a child of God, they unknowingly cut themselves off from the blessings they once had. It may take time, but eventually they will feel the absence of God's grace in their lives. God's justice often comes in silence. No loud announcements, no dramatic scenes, just a quiet unraveling. The person who lied about you suddenly loses credibility. The one who betrayed you finds themselves betrayed. The one who stole from you ends up empty-handed. God has a way of making people reap what they sow without you ever having to lift a finger. It happens so naturally that they do not even realize it is divine retribution. There are times when God allows your enemies to rise, not to reward them, but to set them up for a greater fall. Just as He allowed Pharaoh to enslave his people only to demonstrate His power through the deliverance. Just as He allowed Haman to plot again one once more day only for Haman to be destroyed by his own plans. God allows certain things to happen for His purposes. If you see your enemy prospering, do not assume it is permanent. God may be letting them build a throne that will soon crumble beneath them. Sometimes God will make your enemies witness your elevation. This is one of the most satisfying forms of divine justice. It is not that you seek revenge, but that God blesses you so openly that those who tried to break you are forced to watch. The very people who spoke against you will see you thriving. The ones who doubted you will see God's favor overflowing in your life. And when they realize they cannot stop what God is doing, they will regret ever coming against you. Do not be surprised if those who hurt you suddenly come back into your life, not as threats, but as people seeking forgiveness. God has a way of convicting people. He will make them restless until they acknowledge their wrongs. Some will apologize, some will try to act like nothing happened. And some will avoid you altogether because they cannot face what they have done. No matter how they return, Know that God is working on their hearts just as He worked on yours. One of the most powerful things God does is use your enemies to push you into your destiny. Joseph's brothers thought they were destroying him, but they were unknowingly setting him up for greatness. The people who tried to break you did not realize they were actually positioning you for a greater blessing. Every lie, every betrayal, every rejection was simply a stepping stone towards something bigger. What they meant for evil, God is turning into good. God does not always allow you to see the consequences your enemies face. Sometimes He removes you completely from the situation before His justice unfolds. This is why you should never look back. If God took you out of a toxic friendship, a damaging relationship, or an unfair situation, do not waste time wondering if they ever got what they deserve. Trust that God's justice is at work, even if you never witness it. One of the greatest tests of faith is choosing to let go and trust Him. Here's the script you provided, with slight word changes to keep the original meaning intact, while ensuring it stays over 9,000 characters and in simple English. Let God take care of your pain. The enemy wants you to hold on to anger, seek revenge, and waste your energy fighting battles that belong to God. But when you let go of it, when you surrender and say, God, I trust you to handle this, you free yourself from the weight of the past. That's when God steps in. That's when He moves in ways you never expected. God's justice is never one-sided. While He deals with those who hurt you, He's also working on you. He's teaching you resilience, strengthening your faith, and refining your heart so that when He blesses you, you won't be filled with pride or bitterness. Instead, you'll be filled with gratitude, knowing that what was meant to destroy you only made you stronger. Many times we think that justice means seeing our enemies suffer, but God's justice is bigger than that. Sometimes the best justice is seeing yourself healed, happy, and successful, while those who hurt you stay trapped in their own bad choices. Their punishment isn't always seen as watching you rise above what they tried to do to you. Have you ever wondered why certain people suddenly disappear from your life? That's God's protection. He knows their true intentions. He sees the betrayal before it happens. He hears the conversations behind closed doors. When He removes someone from your life, it's for a reason. Don't try to pull them back in. Don't chase after what God is trying to clear out of your life. When He removes, He replaces with something better. God has a way of using time to reveal truth. You may not understand why things happen, why they did, but give it time. Time exposes lies. Time heals wounds. Time reveals who was really for you and who was against you. In time, you'll look back and realize that every loss was actually a gain. Every painful moment was necessary for your growth. Every betrayal was a setup for a breakthrough. Don't spend your life waiting for karma to catch up with those who hurt you. Focus on what God is doing for you, not what He's doing to them. The more you elevate, the less their actions will even matter. God isn't just dealing with your enemies. He's preparing you for something far greater. Let them go. Keep moving forward, trusting that He will handle them in His perfect way. You may not see it now, but one day you'll understand why things had to happen the way they did. The people who hurt you were never in control. God was. When you finally step into the blessings He has for you, see that every trial, every betrayal, and every heartbreak was part of a baked plan. God doesn't waste pain. He turns it into purpose. God's justice isn't always immediate, but is always certain. You may feel like those who hurt you are getting away with it, but no one escapes divine judgment. The Bible says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Galatians 6:7. Their actions will come back to them in ways they never expected. You don't have to seek revenge. God is already handling it behind the scenes. One of the hardest things to accept is that God's justice doesn't always look the way we want it to. Sometimes instead of punishing your enemies, He changes them. Instead of making them suffer, He transforms their hearts. Some of the people who hurt you today might be the ones who come back years later, humbled and redeemed. And that's the ultimate justice, watching God turn someone's darkness into light. You may never receive an apology, but you will receive peace. That's how God works. He doesn't need to make them say sorry for you to move on. He doesn't need to make them admit their wrongs for you to heal. Your restoration doesn't depend on their remorse. It depends on God's ability to renew your heart. And when He restores you, He does it completely, leaving no trace of the wounds they caused. God's way of dealing with those who hurt you is often by showing them what they lost. The ones who took you for granted will realize your worth when it's too late. The ones who walked away will wish they had stayed. The ones who betrayed you will find themselves betrayed. It's a cycle. What they did to you will come back to them. And when it happens, they'll remember you. But by then you'll have moved on to greater things. Some people hurt you because they assumed you would always be there. They never thought you would outgrow them, move forward and elevate without them. But that's exactly what God is doing. He's pulling you higher while they stay stuck in the same patterns. And the best part, you don't have to prove anything to them. Your success will speak for itself. Your healing will be your testimony. If you keep looking back, you'll miss what God has ahead. Some of you are still watching your enemies, still checking on their life, still hoping to see their downfall. But God wants you to shift your focus. Your future is too bright to be dimmed by thoughts of the past. Let them deal with the consequences of their actions while you walk boldly into your blessings. There's a reason God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Romans 12:19. It's not your job to make people pay for what they did. It's not your responsibility to teach them a lesson. That's God's role, and He does it better than anyone else. You may not see how, and you may not know when, but rest assured, divine justice is in motion. When God moves, there are no loopholes, no excuses, no escapes. Some betrayals are painful, but they're also necessary. Judas had to betray Jesus for the crucifixion to happen. Joseph's brothers had to sell him for him to reach the palace. What happened to you wasn't just an attack. It was a setup for something greater. God isn't just dealing with those who hurt you. He's using their actions to redirect your path. They thought they were breaking you, but they were actually building you. The greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's elevation. When God raises you, there's nothing your enemies can do about it. They may try to block your blessings, but they can't stop God's plan. They may try to discredit you, but they can't erase what God is doing in your life. Your comeback will be so strong that even those who doubt it, you will have no choice but to respect your rise. God sometimes keeps you in isolation to protect you from those who secretly wish for your downfall. You wonder why certain people disappeared, why certain doors closed, or why certain friendships ended. But if you could see what God sees, you would thank Him for every rejection, every disappointment, and every unanswered prayer. He was shielding you from destruction you didn't even know was coming. Your enemy's biggest regret won't be what they did to you. It will be realizing they lost access to you. When you elevate, you'll no longer be reachable by those who once hurt you. They'll want to reconnect, but the door will be closed. They'll want to be in your life again, but God will have positioned you so high that they can't reach where you are. That's divine justice, when God moves you so far ahead that your past no longer matters. God doesn't just restore what you lost, He multiplies it. When Job suffered, God gave him double for his trouble. When Joseph was betrayed, God made him ruler. When David was persecuted, God made him king. The pain you went through is nothing compared to the blessings that are coming. And when you receive them, you'll understand why everything had to happen the way it did. You don't need to pray for revenge. You need to pray for elevation. The higher you go, the less the past affects you. The more God blesses you, the more irrelevant their actions become. Don't waste energy on anger. Channel it into your growth. Don't waste time waiting for their downfall. Spend it building your future. Let God handle them while you focus on your destiny. One day, the people who hurt you will wish they had treated you better. They'll see the favor of God on your life and realize they made a mistake. But by then, you'll be too busy living in abundance to care. Your success, your peace, and your happiness will be the greatest testimony of God's justice. Let them go. Move forward, trusting that God is taking care of everything. God is preparing a table for you in the presence of your enemies. Psalm 23:5. They'll see you winning, and there will be nothing they can do to stop it. The best thing you can do is walk boldly into your blessings, knowing that God has already handled everything behind the scenes. Keep your heart pure, your spirit strong, and your focus on the future. What's coming is far greater than anything you left behind.